Before and after the presidency of Donald Trump, the United States was, and now it is again, on what I would call an intentional trajectory to fulfill what famous Freemason Manly P. Hall described as the secret destiny of America, which includes a future national and global subservience to the God of Freemasonry, a deity that most Americans would not imagine when reciting the Pledge of Allegiance to one nation under God. In fact, the idea by some that the United States was established as a monotheistic Christian nation by those who designed Washington, D.C., and that the God referred to on American currency as a Judeo-Christian one, it's really a puzzling conclusion when reflected against the deistic beliefs of so many of the founding fathers, as you can see perpetually viewed in the so-called supreme architect deism of Freemasons, and in the supreme judge of the world and the divine providence notations that are in the Declaration of Independence and other founding documents, as well as the countless pagan icons that actually dominate the symbols, the statues, the buildings, the seals that were carefully drafted under official government auspices. The Great Seal of the United States primary among them, which Manly P. Hall, the famous Freemason, rightly called the signature of that exalted body of Masons who designed America for what he called a peculiar and particular purpose. It all bears rich symbolism, forecasting anything but Christianity. As a matter of fact, when Christians in the 1800s argued that a hypothetical annihilation of the United States would lead to antiquaries of succeeding centuries, and by that they meant historians, concluding that America had been a heathen nation based on the symbolism of the Great Seal, Congress was pushed to create something reflecting the Christian faith of so many of its citizens. U.S. President and Freemason Theodore Roosevelt, he strongly opposed this idea, but other Masons weren't as frustrated with the plan because, given the ambivalence of the term God, and the axiom that, interpreted within the context of the Great Seal's symbolism, this certainly would not infer the biblical Christian God. Therefore, the slogan, "In God We Trust," whoever you believe that God is, was accommodated by Masons and other Illuminatus, who therefore approved as the official U.S. motto the phrase, "In God We Trust." In my book, Zenith 2016, which among other things noted that the year of Donald Trump's presidential election had been foreseen by prophets and sages for thousands of years as the apex date, when governments would begin shifting toward the spirit that is predicted on the Great Seal of the United States, the Antichrist, followed by the actual man of sin's arrival and acceptance on the global stage in the year 2025, which people will discover in the new book Zeitgeist 2025. But this was to illustrate the point in my book Zenith 2016 that one definitely would not determine that the God in America's official motto refers to the Father of Jesus or a biblical Trinity. I wrote in that book, quote, "Imagine yourself as a space traveler who visits Earth in a fictional post-apocalyptic world. Digging through the rubble of the once thriving planet, you come across a copy of a US $1 bill with the two-sided Great Seal of the United States joined in the middle by the phrase, 'In God We Trust.' Upon consideration, you ask yourself, what God did this refer to? And with no preconceptions, you allow the symbolism on the seal to speak for itself, from which you quickly determine that this had been a great culture who worshipped Egyptian and Greek deities, especially a particular solar one whose all-seeing eye glares from atop an unfinished Egyptian pyramid. Upon further investigation into the specific beliefs of the strange group whose members had influenced the Great Seal, You discover from their highest masters, including one illustrious Albert Pike, that the sun god they venerated so highly had been known to them at various times in history by the names Apollo, Osiris, and Nimrod, end quote.
Hey YouTube world, Harvest is Plenty. Thanks for stopping by to check out the video. So we have a couple things that's coming to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. next year in 2026. As I told you guys, you can't make this stuff up. Also, we're in the last days. We have the Hunger Games, Katniss Everdeen. That's coming to America in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. Trump is bringing in the Hunger Games, but he's calling it the Patriot Games or the Patriotic Games, whereby you would have one high school male and one high school female compete in a competition. Also coming is the Arch of Baal coming to Washington, D.C. If you guys remember years ago, the Arch of Baal was traveling around the world and it made stops in New York City and in D.C. Now Trump is getting ready to build the actual Arch of Baal or the Arch of Baal in D.C. For those of you who don't know about the Arch of Baal, here's a little information. The Arch of Baal, also known as the Arch of Triumph, remember it's also in Paris. Paris is the city of lights. Lucifer is the light bearer. It symbolized the ancient worship of Baal, the Canaanite deity associated with fertility and storms, which is frequently condemned in the Bible. If you remember, they passed their kids through the fire to Moloch and Baal. It says here, the Arch of Baal, constructed by the Romans between 200 and 300 AD, is a representation of the ancient deity Baal, whose name means Lord. Baal was worshipped in various forms across the ancient Near East, particularly in Canaan and Phoenicia. The worship of Baal infiltrated Israelite religion, especially during the reign of King Ahab, leading to significant idolatry and moral decline among the Israelites. It goes on to say Baal worship was frequently mentioned in the Old Testament, where it is depicted as a major source of apostasy among the Israelites. The Bible recounts how the Israelites turned to Baal, engaging in practices such as child sacrifice and ritual prostitution, which were integral to Baal worship. Isn't that something? Just wanted to bring this stuff to your attention. I'll be back with more content. I love you guys. May the good Lord continue to bless you and your family.
In my campaign for president, I pledged to give America the most spectacular birthday party the world has ever seen for America's 250th anniversary on July 4th next year. Already we've had big celebrations to commemorate the 250th birthdays of the Army, the Navy, and the United States Marines, but there is much, much more to come. We're going to have a good time. As we ring in 2026, Americans across the nation will see the iconic Washington Monument illuminated with festive birthday lights to honor the start of this historic anniversary year. Then from June 25th to July 10th of next year, we will host the Great American State Fair on the National Mall, featuring pavilions from all 50 states, highlighting breathtaking innovations and celebrating America's exceptional history and culture. Frankly, you'll never see anything like it, and you'll never see anything like it again. In the fall, we will host the first ever Patriot Games, an unprecedented 4-day athletic event featuring the greatest high school athletes, one young man and one young woman from each state and territory. But I promise there will be no men playing in women's sports. You're not going to see that. You'll see everything but that. As I first announced in 2020, we will build the National Garden of American Heroes, featuring statues of all-time greatest Americans, and we will build a triumphal arch as we celebrate 250 years of American freedom. We are the only major city. We are the only major capital. We are the only major place without a triumphal arch, a beautiful triumphal arch, one like in Paris where they have the beautiful arch in Paris. They call it the Arc de Triomphe. And we're going to have one in Washington, D.C. very soon. Construction will start in the very near future. And next spring, we will host a major prayer event on the National Mall to rededicate our country as one nation under God. We're not changing that. There are a lot of people who would like to see it. It'll never happen. And on Flag Day, we will have a one-of-a-kind UFC event here at the White House. It'll be the greatest champion fighters in the world, all fighting that same night. The great Dana White is hosting, and it's going to be something special. But all of this is just a beginning. 2026 will be a celebration of America like no other, honoring our nation in all of its glory. To help carry out these exciting plans, we have created a new public-private partnership. It's called Freedom 250. Working with states, companies, and organizations across the country, we will renew the patriotism, pride, and pioneering spirit of America and lay the groundwork for the next 250 years of independence and freedom. This will be a time like you've never had in your lives. America 250. Thank you. I love you all.
In my book, Zenith 2016, which among other things noted that the year of Donald Trump's presidential election had been foreseen by prophets and sages for thousands of years as the apex date, when governments would begin shifting toward the spirit that is predicted on the Great Seal of the United States, the Antichrist, followed by the actual man of sin's arrival and acceptance on the global stage in the year 2025, which people will discover in the new book, Zeitgeist 2025. But this was to illustrate the point in my book, Zenith 2016, that one definitely would not determine that the God in America's official motto refers to the Father of Jesus or a biblical Trinity.